Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Ever notice the price of your phone, your car, or even your groceries fluctuating and wonder why? Often the answer lies far beyond your local store, deep in the world of international politics. Today, we're diving into the new global battlefield, a place where the weapons aren't missiles and tanks, but something called tariffs. This is the world of geoeconomics, where nations use their economic might to fight for power and influence. It's a high-stakes game that reshapes our world and directly impacts our lives, and we're going to break down exactly how it works. So what exactly is this term, geoeconomics? In simple terms, it's the use of economic tools to achieve geopolitical goals. For decades after the Cold War, there was a general belief that you could separate market forces from political power. Business was business, and politics was politics. But that era is over. Now, trade policy, access to technology, control over crucial resources, and the supply chains that deliver our goods are all central to a nation's security and its clout on the world stage. Several factors triggered this shift. First, the incredible economic and technological rise of China challenged the long-held dominance of the United States, kicking off a new era of great power competition. Second, major global crises like the 2008 financial meltdown and the COVID-19 pandemic laid bare the extreme vulnerabilities of our interconnected world. Suddenly, relying on a single country for essential goods, whether it was medical masks or microchips, seemed incredibly risky. This forced nations to rethink the idea of globalization. Economic interdependence, once seen as a pure benefit, was now viewed as a potential liability, a weakness that rivals could exploit. Security and economics were no longer separate conversations. They became one and the same. To truly understand the tariff wars of today, we have to look to the past, because this is not a new phenomenon. History is filled with cautionary tales. Perhaps the most infamous example is the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, passed in the United States in 1930. The intention was noble, at least on the surface, to protect American farmers and industries from foreign competition at the start of the Great Depression. The act raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods to record levels. The result was a catastrophic failure. Other countries didn't just accept it. They retaliated with their own crippling tariffs on American goods. Instead of protecting the U.S. economy, Smoot-Hawley choked off international trade. U.S. exports plummeted by over 60% within a few years, deepening the Great Depression and spreading the economic misery around the globe. Many historians even argue that the economic desperation and nationalism fueled by this trade war contributed to the rise of political extremism that ultimately led to World War II. It's a stark reminder of how badly tariff wars can backfire. And the list goes on. In the 19th century, Britain's corn laws placed high tariffs on imported grain to protect wealthy landowners. This led to high food prices and widespread hardship for the general population until the laws were finally repealed. In the 1930s, a dispute over payments led to the Anglo-Irish Trade War, a 6-year conflict of escalating tariffs that severely damaged the Irish economy. Then there are the more peculiar examples, like the Chicken War of the 1960s. When the European Economic Community slapped tariffs on American chicken, the U.S. retaliated with tariffs on things like potato starch, dextrin, and Volkswagen vans. In the 1980s, a major conflict brewed between the U.S. and Japan over cars and electronics. The U.S. accused Japan of unfair trade practices, threatening tariffs, and leading Japan to voluntarily limit its exports to avoid them. More recently, there was the so-called Banana Wars, a nearly 20-year dispute that started in the 90s. The European Union's preferential tariffs for bananas from its former colonies angered the United States and Latin American producers, sparking a lengthy battle that had to be settled through the World Trade Organization. The pattern across all these historical conflicts is clear. While tariffs are often sold as a tool to protect a nation's industries, they frequently spiral into mutually destructive conflicts that disrupt trade, raise prices for consumers, and poison international relations. This brings us to the most significant geoeconomic conflict of our time, the ongoing trade war between the United States and China, which ignited in 2018. This is more than just a squabble over goods and taxes. It's a fundamental clash between the world's two largest economies and their competing visions for the future. The United States has justified its massive tariffs on Chinese goods by pointing to a long list of grievances. These include accusations of widespread intellectual property theft, forcing American companies to transfer their technology to Chinese partners in order to access the market, and providing unfair state subsidies that give Chinese companies an advantage. For the U.S., these tariffs aren't just about balancing a trade deficit. They are a strategic weapon aimed at slowing China's technological ascent and protecting America's long-term economic and national security. In response, China has fought back with its own tariffs, strategically targeting American products, most notably agricultural goods like soybeans, which puts pressure on the American farming sector. This tit-for-tat escalation has sent shockwaves through the entire global economy. For China, this conflict is a crucial test of its economic resilience and its ambition to challenge the US-led global order. It's a direct confrontation, using the tools of economics on a scale never seen before. This is modern geoeconomics in action, where trade policy is statecraft and supply chains are the front lines. The fallout from these modern tariff wars spreads far beyond Washington and Beijing. Because our global economy is so deeply interconnected, a disruption in one corner of the system creates a cascade of ripple effects everywhere else. Let's start with the most direct impact, on consumers and businesses. A tariff is fundamentally a tax on imported goods. That extra cost doesn't just disappear. It's often passed directly on to consumers through higher prices. This can fuel inflation and reduce the purchasing power of everyday people. For businesses, especially those that depend on global supply chains, tariffs are a nightmare. They dramatically increase production costs, making products less competitive. American manufacturers who rely on components from China have been hit hard, just as Chinese factories have suffered from reduced American orders. This constant uncertainty makes it incredibly difficult for companies to plan for the future. In response to this sustained pressure, we're seeing a massive restructuring of global supply chains. For decades, the guiding principle was efficiency, often meaning just-in-time manufacturing concentrated in the lowest-cost locations. Now, the new mantra is resilience. To avoid tariffs and geopolitical risk, companies are reshoring, bringing manufacturing back to their home countries, or friendshoring, moving it to allied nations. This trend, often called deglobalization, is a monumental shift away from the hyper-efficient models of the past towards a more cautious approach that prioritizes stability over pure cost savings. The US-China conflict has also put a spotlight on how economic interdependence can be weaponized. The US has leveraged its dominance over key technologies, especially advanced semiconductors, and its central role in the global financial system to exert pressure on China. On the other hand, China's vast manufacturing capacity and its control over critical raw materials, like the rare earth minerals essential for modern electronics, give it powerful leverage in this economic tug-of-war. The rise of geoeconomics and the frequent use of unilateral tariffs have put the entire rules-based international trading system under immense strain. The primary institution designed to prevent this kind of chaos is the World Trade Organization, or WTO. The WTO was created to be a neutral forum for negotiating trade agreements and resolving disputes peacefully. However, its authority has been severely undermined by the actions of major powers. The United States, for instance, has at times crippled the WTO's ability to adjudicate disputes by blocking appointments to its appellate body. This breakdown in the global referee system has led countries to pursue their own bilateral or regional trade deals, creating a more fragmented, complex, and unpredictable landscape for global trade. So where do we go from here? The geoeconomic struggle between the US and China shows no signs of disappearing. Other nations are also increasingly adopting these strategies to protect their own interests. This new reality is filled with challenges. The risk is that escalating trade conflicts could destabilize the global economy and shatter international cooperation on critical issues like climate change and public health. However, it might also spark innovation, pushing us to develop new, more resilient economic models that are less vulnerable to geopolitical shocks. In conclusion, the modern era of tariff wars is far more than a series of trade disputes. It's a clear symptom of a profound shift in global power, where economics is the new language of statecraft. As we've seen throughout history, while tariffs may offer the illusion of short-term protection, they almost always lead to long-term pain for everyone involved. A world of open, fair, and rules-based trade remains the most proven path to global prosperity, but navigating our way back to it in this new, contested landscape is the great challenge of our time.